We are live. Well, this is a new beginning for the 3 o'clock Facebook Live with Room Junkie, because today we're going to have a celebrity guest in our 3 p.m. live. And we're starting with the much loved and well-known Claire Ronan, award-winning broadcaster and journalist. Claire has a wonderful program on Ocean FM every Saturday called Up and Running. I've been on it twice. She is probably the most intuitive and the best interviewer that I've ever been interviewed by. And I've heard her interview other people, and she's just incredibly good. So for me to pick Claire as my first guest here was, I wasn't thinking that one through. Claire Ronan, you're so welcome.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm delighted to be joining you today. I've been talking about you on Up and Running and your Facebook Lives, keeping people motivated during lockdown. So it's a great honor to be with you today. And thank you very much indeed for asking me.
No, the pleasure is mine. And Barbara Edwards is there. She says you're live and I can hear you. So hope other people can hear as well. So if you're on Facebook, if you're in your Facebook page, I think you must allow StreamYard permission to click into your avatar so that you can actually leave a comment. So Neil Tui is saying it's working as well. So Joe Lynch is Joe, fantastic, loud and clear. Well, Claire is here and she admitted to me that her house is full of people, like most people's houses are full of people, and she had trouble finding a room empty to have peace and quiet. So she's in her guest room with her gorgeous headboard and the light, and you look fantastic. Maureen McGarvey saying hi, Anne and Claire. Kavina McCauley saying hello, ladies. This is just great. So Claire, my celebrity home feature is going to be all about your favorite room, because it fascinates me how, even with my new build people, I have one girl down in Wexford, and even though the house is only under construction, she knows the drawing room is her favorite room already, and I know she's right. So tell me about your room, Claire.
Well, we bought this house and we're here in Sligo, we're on the sea here, and we bought this house about 25 years ago, and it was a typical 70s bungalow. And yes, like a grey sort of brick, fairly ugly, but on a beautiful site. And I was expecting my fourth baby at the time. So we just patched it up a bit and moved in to allow the baby to be born. And then about 10 years later, having done all sorts of bits and pieces, you know yourself, we moved out. And when we moved out for a year and a half, we built a new sitting room. So it's all open plan in the main part of the house, which is full of my 20-something-year-olds who are all working from home. And there's a big glass window that overlooks the sea, and there's a window seat in it. And that is my favorite room in the house. So I spent a lot of time sitting there.
I know that view, Claire. I know your house. I've never been in it. You've invited me there, but I haven't been there. And after this lockdown, I will. But your view is spectacular. There's no doubt about that. You might have bought a boring house, but by goodness, it's not boring anymore. The view is miraculous. It really is. It's almost like we used to live in Bermuda. You have a view like that. It is. You're very lucky.
No, it's a lovely view. One of the things we did, interestingly enough, was we thatched the roof. So that was the biggest change that we made.
And it looks idyllic from the road. And even before I knew it was your house, I noticed that house. And it's because it's so unusual. And yet it blends so well with the water. It's stunning. But you fascinated me because you said you have a name for this particular room. What is it?
The viewing room, we call it, which is very fancy. But we had a sort of anglicised architect, a man called Jeremy Williams, who sadly subsequently has died. He's genius, but, you know, not practical at all. And he had all these very grand names. So he called it the viewing room, but it's just stuck. I mean, when I was growing up, we had at home a back passage where my mother kept all her sort of cold drinks and tins, but it wasn't for years we realized how ridiculous that name was. So anyway, it's our viewing room.
That's so funny, but it sounds gorgeous. And tell me, Claire, is this a room and a space that you use every day? Don't tell me you keep this for good use.
No. Our whole house actually is open plan. Well, we obviously have, you know, we've bedrooms off it, and we have a sort of a children's room, you know, grown-up children's room where they can watch telly and bring their friends. But when you walk in the front door, it's all open plan. So we sit. So that I wanted a situation where if I was cooking dinner and the kids were watching something on TV, that we were all together. So it's one of those sort of rooms, you know. So we get it. It's lovely because no matter what you're doing, even if I'm working at the kitchen table, I can see what everybody's doing around the house.
But you know, Claire, this is something that, because I do so many new builds, and that's really what I specialize in. And particularly for family living, our old house was the same. It was built around family living, this huge expansive space with all the spaces interconnecting. But when the kids were small, even the playroom I had situated with double doors close to the kitchen. So if a row started, I knew it before it even started. If you're entertaining, you can cook and chat and have a glass of wine and do your meal prep. And you're looking out onto the water as well. So it's a double whammy all round. It sounds magical, absolutely magical, yes. But listen, how did a South Side Dublin girl end up falling in love with Ross's Point and moving there and raising her family there?
Interestingly enough, I was expecting my second baby. And I was in my early 20s. I had my children very young, and I was working for a multinational, Hewlett Packard, and I was traveling and never at home. I was never, ever, ever at home. And I found it really hard, a stressful job and missing the children and mother's guilt and the whole 9 yards. So Conor, my husband, had been investing in forestry land in the Northwest for a number of years. So to avail of the grants in the EU, you had to live within 70 miles of your land. So we moved down for a year and rented a house in Ross's Point. I gave up work, which was fantastic. At that stage, then I was just about to have my third baby, and then I had my children very close together. So
5 children.
5, yeah. So then once we had moved here, my husband started developing wind farms, and that's his business, renewable energy. So we just stayed. We just loved it. And I think it was probably the best decision I've ever made in my life. I love Sligo. I love everything about the place. Of course, my sisters live in South Dublin still, and can't get over the fact that I've moved, because, you know, people from South Dublin, like, they don't move a lot. They're inclined to sort of stay near where they were brought up. Of all my friends, I'm the only one who moved away, and I love it here, and I love the people. I love everything.
But Claire, you've become such a part of the community. I mean, you're a part and parcel of Ocean FM. You MC, and you're so generous with your time as well. I've been to so many women's events where you've MC'd and you've moderated and you've done everything so brilliantly. But most of my viewers are women, and a lot of them are mums. Tell them your story, because you didn't become a journalist after school, did you, Claire?
No. So, I was at home for 20 years when I gave up work that time. I was delighted to be at home, but because the children were all so close together, the next thing I knew, the mic, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Because the kids were born so close together, they went away, obviously, together. So I found myself at 45 with just nearly an empty nest. And it just literally, Anne, happened overnight. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but, you know, I dropped one who was repeating her leaving, one who was doing her leaving. I dropped them to school, and then the youngest was still in secondary school. And I came home and I thought, I have cleaned this hot press for 20 years. I have cooked and cleaned and all the other things all us mums do. I'd love to do something for myself. So I investigated and did a course in media. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you perfectly, yes. I'm getting goosebumps, actually.
So basically what happened was I literally went on my own for a walk on the beach. It's weird the way it all happened. And I thought I always wanted to work in RT. I'm from right beside RT, but my father didn't really approve. He was very strict. And I came home, Googled a course, found the Park Studio course, which a lot of people who work in media have done. And he was starting on the Saturday. He doesn't do it anymore, Kevin. He's an amazing guy. And the course was starting the following Saturday. So I asked him, would he take me? And we were on the phone for about an hour and a half. And he said, come in an hour before everyone. We'll put you to camera. And I nearly had a stroke with the nerves and sick and what I'd wear. And I'm so fat. And I had no confidence. Like, being at home with the children seems to have robbed all my confidence.
This is going to resonate with a lot of people. I know it is. So keep telling us, Claire. This is great.
I have that piece to camera, the first piece I ever did, and I had red blotches all over my neck and right up into my face, and you could actually see them spreading up. And he was like, "You need to get over that. You'll never get a job in television." But that course was only for about 4 months, and it was every Saturday, and you did all your work at home. And it just gave me my confidence back. I was the oldest by about 30 years or 20 anyway. And by the end of it, I was well able to hold my own, and it was the best thing I ever did. I was lucky enough to get working on a show on RTE called Morning Edition, and I was doing a newspaper review. And then I got great advice from Keelan Shanley, who has passed away since, but she was really good to me. And she said, you need to be Claire Ronan from somewhere, so go into the local radio station. So I went and knocked on the man's door, and his name was Tim Collins. And I said, I'll do a slot for you for free. And I never realized it was so hard. And he said, do you know anything about consumer law? And I said, no, but I'll know next Tuesday. So that's how it all began. I started doing a slot every second Tuesday, I think it was. And it gained popularity. And I'm still with Ocean 9 years later.
I remember that slot, Claire, before. I do. And you were brilliant. Right. And you were so tenacious and you were so knowledgeable. But listen, this is... Edna Coleman is saying, Claire, you're such an inspiration. Carmen Harkin is saying, hi, Anne. Breach Fallon, another inspirational Sligo lady, saying, Claire Ronan, fabulous. Barbara Edwards is saying, we moved to Donegal for a year and 20 years later, we're still here. Helen Walsh is saying, hi, Anne, what a great story, Claire. But listen, this does give me goosebumps because there are lots of people here, and I think now everybody's homeschooling and they're at home, and maybe confidence is diminishing again. I spoke to somebody who has taken a break from work just to give herself a break, and she said, when you do that, it does something to your confidence as well.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, I'll be honest, I was in my 40s when I did the RTE show house. That was my very first client. I was stone nuts to take on something like that with the cameras rolling, and then your neighbour Shane Filan just happened to be the builder, so the publicity was crazy. But I did believe that I could do it, Claire, and I made it up as I went along. And I think you don't have to be 20 to do something. You can do something at any stage of your life if you want to. And I think because of the COVID and because of everything we've been through, we need to find what our dream is and go for it.
Yeah. And I think that COVID is going to change people, because I can tell you one thing, I'm never wasting another day. When this is over, I'm going to enjoy myself and have a bit of fun. And I think everybody would say the same. I miss my friends. I really miss my friends. I miss my sisters, and I'm sure everyone is the same. But Anne, interestingly, when you were saying about confidence, I think that there's a problem in society that people look down on mothers who are at home minding their children. And I've told this story a million times, and forgive me if I've said it before, but I was at a dinner party one night and I was sitting beside this judge, and he was a pain in the ass, actually. And I really drew the Z straw by getting him. Anyway, if the girl who was having the dinner party is listening, she can kill me later. But on that night, he said to me, and what do you do? And I said, oh, well, I have 5 children and I'm at home. And he literally turned his back on me for the rest of the night. 6 years later, I was at a party in the same lady's house, and I was put beside the same guy. And he said, and what do you do? And I said, oh, I work in media. I work in television and radio. And he nearly ate me up. And I just turned my back on him. And at the end of the night, I said it to him. I just said, I sat beside you before, but you didn't remember me at all because I was at home minding my children. Now, he didn't care, particularly give a damn. But to me, I just thought that epitomizes it. It's, people think, oh God, I'm going to have to listen to her. Do you think that when you go out on a Saturday night, you want to talk about your children? You're looking at them all day. No, it's just the way people feel, I think. And you just have to ignore it and get on with it.
Because it's horses for courses and stages of your life. I was a stay-at-home mum. I trained as a nurse, and when we moved back from Bermuda to Dublin, Neil was away all the time. He was working for a Swiss company. He was never at home. So we bought a wreck of a house that I decided I would take on and renovate. But those years, I don't regret 1 minute of the time I spent with my boys. And I have a different story to you, Claire. I remember when we were in Bermuda, the head of Liberty Mutual was there, and he was Neil's client, and they were all shaking in their boots because this guy was coming to dinner. I ended up beside him. We spoke all night long. And afterwards, every single one of those accountants and actuaries came up to me and said, what did you talk to him about? Because we're afraid to talk to him. And I said, I asked him about his wife and his family and his children. And that's what we talked about all night long. So COVID has taught us one thing. Family is so important. Our friends are so important. But our home is important too. And that's why I'm encouraging people to, maybe find their favorite room in the house and really, and I'm not saying spend tons and tons of money on it, but put a bit of effort into it and a bit of imagination. I can imagine your house is it colourful, Claire? Is it
It's very, the architect called it cottage ornate, which is ornate cottage really, and it's a fancy title for it. So it's like a sort of French architecture. So it's sort of ornate, and I have lots of little bits of silver and my books. But it's funny you should say that, because what I decided to do was clean out my wardrobe, which I hate doing, because I have my very fat and thin clothes. I'm in my very fat clothes at the moment. But anyway, and also, just little things like the candles from Lidl, the ones that are the copy of the Joe Malone's. And
Malone, that's right. I have them too. Yes.
This diffuser I love, lime and basil from Lidl. Or Aldi, I'm not sure which one. But those are the things I love around the house, and having just your candles lit in the evening. And as you say, what can we do? We can just sit at home and enjoy our homes at the moment, Oh,
I've talked about this a lot. I've written about it too. Claire, this is one thing that I'm going to do, and the girls know this. I've actually started, the other night, I took Sunday off, did nothing, and learned something incredible about myself. I can't stand doing nothing. So I was talking to Brian in the Netherlands, and I said, I think I'll read a book. And he said, no, Mom, I think you should go and write a book. I thought, you know what? I'm going to take a day, what am I trying to say? An hour every day. But I'm actually going to write the Happy Home Bible. I'm not sure that's what it's going to be, but I'm convinced that your home and your mental health and your well-being are all tied up. Whether you live in a tiny apartment or a mansion on the hill, it actually doesn't matter. But so it fascinates me. So, you're such a warm, generous, lovely, supportive, bubbly person, Claire. And you're so good at what you do. You really are. I'm not just saying that because you're here. I honestly think you're one of the best interviewers I've ever heard interview anybody. I'm serious, Claire. Stop it. Katrina Mulhern is here, and she's saying to me, Claire interviewed me a few years ago.
I did. Remember, Katrina?
Point being, maybe, and just to say it is possible to reinvent oneself, as you know, Anne, never give up. Honestly, go with your dream, whatever your gut is telling you to do. Like, if I had told the nuns back in school that I wanted to be an interior designer, I probably would have got a slap. That's true. And the crazy thing is, your dad didn't want you to go into RTE. I was actually good at English. I got an A in English way back then. It was my pride and joy. And I wanted to be a journalist. And I had this conversation with my mother, and she said, you can't, because journalists go down shady alleyways and they smoke cigarettes and it's bad. So that was the end of that.
My dad used to say they lick the end of a pencil, and they're always drinking in pubs. And anyway, they're not quite.
But it suited us well.
Yeah, I would have loved it.
But you know something? I wrote an article for the Sunday Times 2 weeks ago. So dream it and you can do it. It was simple, but look at it as a start. I'm going to read some of these messages because I know I'm getting goosebumps, and this is amazing. Rachel Dubber is saying, hi, Anne, so badly needed. I would read it. Oh, that's a book. Rachel's in it. Have you come across Rachel?
Her name is very familiar now.
She's an artist over in Galway. Oh. And she does, I bought a load of Christmas presents. She does drawings of animals, mostly horses, and because she has an equine background. Oh, so gifted. Rachel Dubber. Jackie Kearney is saying, Claire, you're fabulous. Love your story. Felice is saying, loving this conversation. Kavita McCauley saying, what a great inspiration, Claire. Listen, it's all. Hi, Anna, Claire, brilliant chat. Claire, you're such an inspiration. Violet Russell, gone offline. She's telling me we've gone offline. I don't think so. Mary Barkley saying hello to both of us. Now Bridie can hear, first time listening. Siobhan Savage is up in Belfast. It's funny, it's a small world. You know Deirdre McGlone over in Harvey's Point?
I do, yes.
Siobhan is Deirdre's sister, and their dad, Joe McGlone, was my Latin teacher in school. But talking about inspiration, I was a shy little 16-year-old, and he saw something in me, and he put me on the debating team, the senior debating team, and really nurtured me. And I'll never forget that. Of all the teachers that I had, and I only did Latin up until Intercert, he was the one that really, so for any teachers out there who are listening quietly as you homeschool or do your own schooling, sometimes it's not just the academic encouragement that motivates somebody or gives them the edge. It's, teachers have such an influence on our kids. Lots of comments coming in there. Barbara's saying, you're still online, don't worry. Mary White is here. Mary's an artist in Rathfarnham in Dublin that I've just met through the Facebook Lives. And it's great. Wait, so Claire, how many kids have you got left at home now? I mean, physically at home because of COVID. They're not all there. All right.
Actually, I'll give you a laugh. So when they all left, then I was on every radio, television show, every newspaper article talking about the empty nest. And within a year, they were all back, the whole lot,
Because of
all
COVID.
5. And I mean, because they were living in Dublin, so they all came home. And the first, 2 months, I was like Mother Hubbard. And then Ciara Kelly, who was doing Lunchtime Live, asked me to come on, and she got me on a bad day. And I was like, dishwasher has just asked me, am I having a laugh? Because the children just turned into children again. The 29-year-old was like, what are we having for dinner? And but I have enjoyed having them now, I have to say. But I have at home now my eldest 3, and it is lovely. Look, it's more work, but it is nice to have them. I'm enjoying it. It's like to do this, and Barry, my eldest boy, he's working up in the room I wanted to do it, and they're on the phone all day long. But
we'll forgive them.
This too shall pass, and we'll get there. But if anyone is listening. Oh, I'm so lucky, because I mean, your son is in Australia, isn't he? Have you a son in Australia?
One in Australia, and the youngest is in college in the Netherlands. So I'm not even going to go there. They're safe and they're well. That's all I can say. Yeah. But anyway, you were going to say something, and I interrupted you, and I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, if there is anyone listening, I mean, I think it's important to do something for yourself. I think as a mother, I'm only learning to do things for myself in the last few years. I got very stroppy about my job, whereas they were all sort of laughing at mum's little job. And then when I was beginning to really enjoy it, I was like, no, this is important to me. And it's changed me. It actually has changed me now. And I'm now 55, and I'm much more, I do anything for my children, and my husband, I do anything for them. But I do now put myself up there a bit, and much more than I ever would. I'd always serve myself last when I'm cooking, I'd make sure they were always dressed beautifully, and then I'd worry about myself, and now I've learned to put myself first. And if you're at home, it's a big transition going from having a job minding children and then they're gone. It's your time to do something for yourself. And I think going back to work and your brain working and being out in the workforce, I used to get such a thrill out of driving in the morning, to work. It's great. It just keeps you young and motivated and happy.
I totally agree. I totally agree. I trained as a nurse, and I loved working as a nurse, particularly loved working as a theatre nurse. But I can tell you what I do now, I know it's what I was meant to do. I love it. This is not just work. I love it. I absolutely love it. I get consumed. I get so excited. I would do this all day long, every day, and I do. And it's such a gift. So it is. But everybody, I do think, and it might seem simplistic to just say, oh, go follow your dream. But identify your dream. What is your dream? What would you love to be doing? And just try and do it. And I think now is a time of change. You can do much more from home. I mean, if you told me a year ago that I would have been on the Elaine show sitting here, that I would have been wearing this dress, talking to Ciara Kelly on her radio show, or on News Talk a couple of times with Sinead Ryan, it just wouldn't have made sense, So much is more doable now, and so much is more doable online. Today, here's a little bit of news. I actually set up the Room Junkie School of Design today. Registered, it's all done and dusted. Yes, because it is, because lots of people want to learn, and so I've got a decluttering class, and I've got an online interior design class as well, and I've got some of the girls here are on it. They're just amazing, and they want to learn. Some of them are building houses, but others, like Edna, they want to learn how to do this professionally themselves. So it's great. So anything is possible. Absolutely anything is possible.
Well, decluttering, I think, is really good for your mental health.
Yes, it is. It's where you must start. And people have a problem. We Irish have a problem with letting go, because I think we're taught to hold on to things, and not to let go. Helen Walsh is saying, congratulations, Anne. Helen is actually, she's down in the sunny southeast in Wexford, and she is going to she's going to come on as my Ask the Expert next week, and next Thursday. And tomorrow I've got Ciara McWilliams from Costantino. So for anybody building a house or changing a kitchen, Costantino is a home of Decton and Silestone and all those natural stone products. And I want to talk to her too about, there's so much that you could do with stone. It's not just worktops and vanity units. So we'll be talking about that tomorrow. Rachel Dubber is saying, fantastic, I need to do a bit more decluttering myself. We all do. Rachel saying, good for you, Claire. I'm the same age and I've just done the same myself. Look after me, then others. Okay, now that's the wisdom from today. Put yourself first, girls. I don't mean, and Claire doesn't mean put everybody else not first. You will do, but make time for yourself as well. Oh, Claire, this was
really
such a
important.
pleasure. We could chat forever and ever and ever. But I was terrified
really
about the
enjoyed
text.
it.
So did
Oh,
I.
look
It
how
was
easy it is.
so easy. Well, Barbara Edwards, I have to give a massive shout out to Barbara
Brilliant.
Edwards, because she talked me through this yesterday, and then I rang her in a panic today because there was a problem with my mic, not the microphone, the camera, and we're all sorted. So listen, guys, it's a change. I have no idea what celebrity we're going to have next week. I had gas suggestions coming in yesterday, everybody from George Clooney to Kelly Hoppen, but I'll tell you one thing, they have a hard act to follow because they have to follow Claire Ronan.
Listen,
so Claire,
thanks so much.
So much. An absolute pleasure.
And love to everybody out there. Thanks a million, Anne. Keep up the good work.
No, thank you. That was just fantastic. And listen, I'll be back tomorrow at 3 o'clock with Ciara McWilliams from Costantino. But just as Claire said, I usually always end my broadcast and say, do something nice for yourself today. Do something for you. So she's now reiterated what I'm saying and saying the importance of doing this. So stay safe and stay fabulous. And I'll talk to you all tomorrow at 3. Now, when I find the end, bye, Claire. Thank you so much.
Not at all. Delighted. Thank you.
Thank you.